the song blew my mind and ripped my face off. It was just so big, so orchestral, so clever in the arrangements. The singing was so big, and the drums.
I love the pounding urgency in the song. I love that tribal drum beat behind it.
I thought it was a really cool song, really cool two-drummer concept kind of thing.
That's cool. It's a killer song. Big Rush fan growing up.
One word immediately comes to mind, Rush, because I love Rush.
I've been honored to be able to play along some great players and great friends, and how could I say no to that?
I thought it'd be a lot of fun, and everything I've done with Tom in the studio has been awesome. And then learning who was playing on it, like some of my favorite players in town and friends of mine. And I was like, how could I turn this down?
He was forcing me with extortion and threats of violence, that if I didn't record the song, he was gonna steal my drums.
I mean, the band is just phenomenal players, all of them, and I just was really happy to do it for them.
Like friends of mine from way back, great players. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Of course, I want to be involved.
Tom came to me at a funny time in my life when he brought me the song. I was battling a sickness called cancer, and the song took on a completely different meaning for me than it probably actually meant, because at the time I had literally just opened up my body, and so I'm like, how funny is that? That, you know, I now also have a battle scar. Even though there's obviously spectacular political undertones, it became something bigger than that for me, because I was like, you know what, like, I want to do this with Tom because it's proof that I beat it and got better.
Now, the organ player, that's my friend Paul Farso. He was the producer I worked with Mike Love of the Beach Boys. In the 60s, Paul's band, The Loading Zone, was the house band at the Fillmore, who opened for everybody. Paul was even offered a gig to play organ for Janis Joplin right before she passed away. Sadly, he was not available to be in the video.
It's the hidden gem of the Rush catalog.
On Battlescar, it's the Kim Mitchell, Gary McCracken, Terry Watkins, and Dave Miles lineup. And of course you have the guys in Rush as well, so it's 7 in all playing on the track. You know, the misconception is that Max were kind of piggybacking off of Rush, but it's just no. It was Rush that asked Max to be a part of it. And it's funny, there's a clip of Mitchell being all, yeah, sure, you guys want to play with us. Kind of like, yeah, come on over for a barbecue. But they were dead serious. They said, no, if you guys track this tune, we'd love to play on it. And they did.
Quoting Neil Peart.
Toronto, July 28, 1980. An intense thunderstorm raged outside all day long, while inside a storm of a different kind was brewing. In the studios of Phase 1, 2 complete sets of equipment crammed the room, and 2 complete bands filled the air with a Wagnerian tumult as Max Webster and ourselves united to record a song for their album called Battlescar.
I heard Battlescar for the first time February 1990 when I was my last year at USC. My initial introduction to Battlescar was at a film event in Los Angeles with a friend from college, Brian Singer. He had just won a film festival, and I met someone in the audience who was Canadian who said, "Oh, Rush fan, eh?" I go, "Yep." He said, "Well, you need to hear Battlescar." I'm like, Battlescar? A Rush song I haven't heard of? Are you kidding? Turns out Rush and this Canadian band, Max Webster, combined forces in 1980 and did a song in the studio together. And it was the second take. And I'm like, oh my God, second take. You're blowing my mind.
Our version of Battlescar was produced at Emirage Sound Labs in Sparks, Nevada. The owner, Dr. Lawrence Davis, had the idea of doing a project to benefit music in the schools many years ago. Since I am a product of Washoe County School District music education, I was all in to give back so they could buy music, fix instruments, or get supplies. But due to the nature of the video, I also wanted to help the Native American community. The Native American Graduate Center gets scholarship funds for Native American students all over the country. The original Battlescar was recorded in Toronto at Phase 1 Studios. It was produced by legendary producer Jack Richardson, who had also produced The Guess Who, Alice Cooper, Badfinger, and Bob Seger. I got to work with that producer's son, Garth Richardson, who's also a producer. Garth produced Rage Against the Machine and Catherine Wheel, amongst others. He was 20 at the time and got to visit the session. Lucky bastard. He recalls no one was allowed to touch Neil's drums except for Neil's tech, and believes it was either the first or second take. Sadly, ours is about the 40th take. Oops.
Bust the busters, screw the feeders, make the healers. Bust the busters, screw the feeders, make the healers. Feel the way I feel. Make the healers. Feel the way I feel. Bust the busters, screw the feeders, make the healers.
The song was written by Max Webster's frontman Kim Mitchell and lyricist Pye Dubois. And on that session, Neil Peart met Pye Dubois, which led to them writing the lyrics to Rush's biggest hit, Tom Sawyer. Quoting Kim Mitchell,
"It was a great day. Pye told me there were fans outside the studio cutting off their ears and slipping them under the doors to hear."
Quoting Neil Peart,
This day also afforded Pye Dubois, Max's lyricist, the opportunity to present us with a song of his, humbly suggesting that it might be suitable for us if we were interested. Having been long-time admirers of Pye's work, we were indeed interested, and it eventually became Tom Sawyer.
Battlescar, during those sessions, Pye Dubois was hanging around and he was always writing. He was working on a thing called Louis the Lawyer, and he just got chatty with Neil Peart, and Peart looked at that and said, I kind of like this. And Louis the Lawyer was revamped into Tom Sawyer, and within a few months Rush had a new tune and they were playing it live and ended up being probably their biggest song.
It was engineered by David Green, who had also engineered The Guess Who, The Animals, and many film scores. Recorded live, both bands at the same time. Not easy to do back in that day. Quoting David Green,
Both Max Webster and Rush are essentially guitar, bass, drums, and vocals, though we added keys for this track, for a total of 7 players. When we began to look at the logistics, a polite way of describing Neil's drum setup, we needed to duplicate the Max Webster setup and track allotment to afford Rush similar technical facility and musical flexibility. Politely put, synchronizing multiple analog tape machines was in its primitive stages. We got a second 24-track machine for Rush and locked to the first one using a synchronizer. To do that, we bastardized one of the other studios at Phase 1 for its tape machine, while commandeering their microphones, stands, and anything else that wasn't nailed down. Thankfully, the technical gods smiled upon us, and somehow it all worked.
Battlescar was released on Max Webster's Universal Juveniles album and as a single, never on a Rush record. That's probably the reason why it never got the exposure it deserved. So, since Max Webster never broke outside of Canada the way Rush did, many non-Canadian Rush fans don't know the song exists, which I'm kinda banking on. The danger of doing a cover song is being compared to the original. And many won't know the original to compare it to. But my Canadian friends will be the hardest to win over, knowing how deep this is in their rock history lexicon.
Max Webster and Rush never performed Battlescar live. Only various members performed it together at different times. In the Max Webster days, Geddy Lee many times joined Max to play and or sing his part, but not always did he appear as Geddy Lee. He often came on with a Richard Nixon mask.
The biggest issue and the biggest challenge recording a version of Battlescar was trying to get this many people in a studio at the same time and trying to coordinate 8 people to come, do it and play it together and learn the songs. It was herding cats. I didn't touch it for years. My life got in the way. My dad passed away and a bunch of other stuff went down, so I didn't look at the files for 9 years. And then about a year ago, I opened them up. I was ecstatic with what I heard, and we finally brought the singers in to do the vocals. Since I've been working in our industry so long, I know a lot of the singers in our town and reached out to several and said, hey, can you do this? It was quite a team, and I ended up getting like 30 singers. And we squeezed it in our little studio, and it sounds killer.
And it's great doing the video now. After all these years, Tom. All these years, Tom. Jeez.
The director is Tyler Bournes, who is an Emmy-winning director-shooter who I've worked with a lot with Whitesnake and independent films. Having shot many music videos for David Coverdale, I knew he'd be great for this. The Politician's TV head mask was an old TV donated by Brian Silverman. It was hollowed out and modified by an old friend. Eric Bevins, aka Dr. Smash. Eric is a former concert stage fabricator who had made stages for Pink Floyd and Reba McEntire. He took the guts out, carved an opening at the bottom to fit my shoulders, and inserted a bicycle helmet inside so it sat correctly. He also replaced the glass screen with plexi for weight and being able to mount green screen onto it. I couldn't see a damn thing. My dear friend Jill Marlene is an actual therapist, activist, singer, and actor who was kind enough to act in the video and give us her office to shoot in, where Richard James was a highly recommended Native American actor who had been in films like The Mustang, who we met that day and nailed it.
It's everywhere, and yet the system is such that it's hard for people to be able to talk about the ways that they've been oppressed or harmed or traumatized by the larger culture. And I'm just really glad that now that, feminism and racial equality, everything is coming out to the point where it's okay to talk about it.
There is a lot of change, but really a slow change.
Though this version is certainly political, it is intentionally nonpartisan. Everyone has blood on their hands on this topic. Plus, it puts a focus on how all minorities are viewed and treated in the US, empathizing with their positions and struggles. Feel the way I feel. There will be those out there thinking, why does white boy care about this? I clearly come from a place of privilege here, but it was very eye-opening, if not horrifying, to learn more about the oppression of Native American culture when researching and producing this project. Things that were in my own backyard that are brushed under the carpet that I had no idea about. From Wounded Knee to the assimilating boarding schools to the Native American Graves Protection Act. These were things I had heard of but had never understood, and more people need to understand. Hopefully this will inspire folks to learn more about all marginalized people. The concept is nicely portrayed in the painting on the cover and at the end of the music video. It's called Six Grandfathers by Reno artist and musician Vincent Ceccarelli. It depicts 6 Indian leaders in and around Mount Rushmore. Chiefs Geronimo, Joseph, Sitting Bull, and Red Cloud are in the mountain, and Chiefs Seattle and Black Elk are in the trees. A pleasant surprise was I got to mix the song to the final cut of the music video, which is rare. Typically, the music is done long before the music video, so being able to mix to picture was like mixing a movie, which can influence decisions based on what you're seeing, not hearing. Finally mastering Battlescar. Long overdue, and we're actually doing an analog tape rinse. There we are.
Man, it's nice when you have it and when you can hear the spontaneous energy, and I'm thrilled that we captured that. It's a delight, and I have the same adrenaline rush listening to the original, even though my drumming pales in comparison.